Hey YouTube, Kira Twig here, bringing you all my Insect Queen Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck profile for May 2021. I've been wanting to update the Insect Queen deck for quite a while. This is Weevil Underwood's main go-to deck in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Series. It's a very interesting deck. It hasn't really had too much new support since the Legendary Duelists 2, Ancient Millennium, but it has had some reprinted support in the Legendary Duelist Season 1, so I figured an update was due for the deck just because it's a lot easier to make now for sure. With all the different play aspects, there's more of a lockdown for the deck, basically stopping your opponent from being able to defeat any of your insect monsters in battle or by card effect. So definitely do like this new concept brought up to the deck. So let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So for the main deck monsters, I am running 3 Metamorphosed Insect Queen. It cannot be normal summoned or set. It must be special summoned by a card effect. If another insect monster is on the field, your opponent cannot target insect monsters you control with card effects. Also, they cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects. At the end of damage step, if this card attacked, you contribute 1 monster. This card can attack an opponent's monster again in a row. And once per turn during the end phase, you can special summon 1 insect monster token onto the field. So this insect monster token is basically made to play into the original Insect Queen, where you would make a token and then be able to feast on that token to basically keep it on the field. I'd say this is a lot better, being the fact that it's stronger than the original Insect Queen, having a much better protection effect for all of your insect monsters on the field, and you can use the insect tokens that this card makes to continually attack into your opponent. We have other cards in the deck just to make it that much easier to special summon onto the field. With some of this added backup support being Parasite Paranoid, it's the, I would say, evolved form of Parasite. On this one, quick effect, you could target one face-up monster on the field, equip this card from your hand to that target. The equipped monster becomes an insect monster. It cannot attack insect monsters, and also its effect activated by targeting an insect monster are negated. You can only use the effect of Parasite Paranoid once per turn. If this equipped card is sent to the graveyard, you can special summon 1 level 7 or higher insect monster from your hand, ignoring its summoning condition. So this is the best way to get out your Metamorphosed Insect Queen. We also have some other boss monsters in the deck that can be summoned out with this restriction lifting card effect. So very useful to run this at 3, because not only does it restrict your opponent's cards from, basically going up against your own insect monsters, it just helps for going into the main play style, which is summoning out your Metamorphosed Insect Queen onto the field. For some better special summoning options as well, I run 3 Pinch Hopper. With this card, when it's the card you control is sent to the graveyard, you can special summon 1 insect monster from your hand. So basically, if it's sent to the graveyard, you can just special summon out your Insect Queen from your hand, since it has to be summoned by a card effect. This has no restrictions, no level 4 lower or anything like that. It just says a insect monster in your hand. So as long as you have that set up, Pinch Hopper is very useful for that, but it also comes in handy with one of the other locks that I spoke of earlier, which we'll get to in just a bit. For more of the search power in the deck, I also run 3 Resonance Insect. If this card is sent from the field to the graveyard, you can add 1 level 5 or higher insect type monster from your deck to your hand. If this card is banished, you can send 1 insect type monster from your deck to the graveyard, except for Resonance Insect. So it all depends on the play you have for the field. If you have the graveyard set up and cards to special summon from the graveyard, banishing Resonance Insect means that you can easily send that monster to the graveyard to set up back onto the field by special summoning it from the graveyard. If it is sent from the field to the graveyard, having the search option for a level 5 or higher insect type monster obviously gives us our target for that search, but then also having other insects to then summon it out into the field, that much easier, makes it so we have just a 2-card combo to set up the Metamorphosed Insect Queen on the field. But going more into the insect lock, I also run 3 Block Spider. Your opponent cannot target insect type monsters for attacks, except for this one. If this card is special summoned, you can special summon 1 Block Spider from your deck. You can only use the effect of Block Spider once per turn. So if you summon out Block Spider, you can then basically summon out the other one onto the field, having the lock initiated. So then basically your opponent cannot attack other insect type monsters. And when you create this lock, if you have your Insect Queen on the field, making it so they also can't be destroyed by card effects. This is the basic impenetrable wall that you make against your opponent, so nothing can be destroyed by card effects or targeted by card effects, and your opponent can only target the Block Spiders, which are locking each other out. So a pretty strong wall at that, and that much more easier to special summon out onto the field. Basically, for the fact that it has to be special summoned, means that if we use Pinch Hopper to summon an insect type monster from our hand, we can summon out the Block Spider and then the additional Block Spider from the deck, having the lock taken into effect just like that, and then relying on just getting Insect Queen onto the field to complete the protection for the Block Spiders. For a little more special summoning options with the deck, I also run 2 Azectopede, the Worm Warrior. It cannot be normal summoned or set. It must be special summoned by banishing 1 insect-type monster from your graveyard, and it cannot be special summoned by other ways. If this card inflicts battle damage to your opponent, you send the top card of their deck to the graveyard. So this is another great card to initiate the banish for Resonance Insect, being able to banish this card to then send another insect to the graveyard while getting a special summon onto the field. I thought of running Doom Dozer in the deck as well. It's the level 8 variant, and you have to banish 2 insect-type monsters for that. If I were to do so, I would just drop the number of Azectopede that I run to 1, and then basically run 1 additional Doom Dozer for the deck. With the additional number of insects, I am running 1 Super Armored Robot, Black Iron Sea, and 1 Perfectly Ultimate Great Moth to finish off the insects for the main deck. These are just other special summon cards that can be easily brought out with Parasite Paranoid, but also Armored Robot, Black Iron Sea can also be summoned just by having 3 insect-type monsters with the same name in the graveyard, which can be done if you are finished with the Block Spider Lock, or if your opponent somehow gets around them and they end up in the graveyard, or if you have 3 of plenty of other cards in the graveyard like Parasite Paranoid, or the Pinch Hoppers. Having those can be easily then equipped to Black Iron Sea and special summon through normal means. But the Perfectly Ultimate Great Moth is just in the deck to basically summon out with either our Parasite Paranoid or our Cocoon of Ultra Evolution, which we'll get to when we go over the spell cards. For the last of the monsters in the main deck, I also run 3 Ash Blossom and Joy Spring. This is just my hand trap preferred to run just to shut down my opponent's plays. I know we're running a majority insect type lineup for the deck, so with it we just have, like I said, hand trap of choice. I thought of some other cards to run in the deck, maybe Retaliating Sea as more of a lockdown for my opponent's graveyard, and just another easy way to special summon an insect onto the field. If you want to run that, you can always replace Ash Blossom with the Retaliating Sea, but that's more just the player preference at that point. That's it now for the monsters. We'll now move on to the spells. I run 3 Cocoon of Ultra Evolution. This is your quick play spell in the deck. You tribute 1 insect type monster from either field equipped with an equip card. If you do special summon 1 insect type monster from your deck, ignoring its summoning conditions, during your main phase you can banish this card from your graveyard to target 1 insect type monster in your graveyard, shuffle it into the deck, then draw 1 card. You can only use this effect of Cocoon of Ultra Evolution once per turn. So the fact that it says from either side of the field, so even if you have your opponent's monster equipped with Parasite Paranoid, you can still tribute their monster since it's counted as an insect type while getting the benefit of special summoning 1 of your own insect type monsters to the field, whether it be the Perfectly Ultimate Great Moth or the Metamorphosed Insect Queen instead of our main go-to play. This is a great thing to rely on for that option, so you definitely want to run 3 of this card, being a quick play spell and also just being able to recycle your insect type monsters from the graveyard back into the deck to draw into more important cards. Like I said, makes it a 3 for sure in any of the Weevil Underwood Insect Queen decks. For more special summoning options, I also run 3 Wormbait. If you control an insect type monster, special summon 2 worm tokens. You cannot normal summon or special summon level 3 or 4 monsters the turn you activate this card, so you have 2 directions to go with in this deck with the special summon. With Wormbait, you can just activate this card, getting 2 worm tokens, and then immediately go for the link summon of your Inzektor Picofelina, being able to then have recycle power or equipped options with this card, which can set up more of your bigger boss monsters. Since you're only limited to the level 3 and 4 restrictions, you can still get out other cards like Metamorphosed Insect Queen or even Block Spider in the deck, or any of our other boss monsters we spoke of when you activate this card. It's great. You just have to have an insect type monster on the field to special summon these tokens as well, and it's not a once per turn. So if you open up multiple Wormbaits, you can open and activate this card for the option since they are level 1 tokens, and that restriction won't be applied again since that's what you're summoning out onto the field with this card. I also run 2 Foolish Burial Goods just for setting up the Cocoon of Ultra Evolution in the graveyard. I don't normally like to rely on this, but it's just here for the draw power. If you just need that 1 draw, potentially, if you send 1 and draw into it, you can, risk and just take the gamble of going into another Cocoon of Ultra Evolution with the draw and banish, since it's even, not restricted for the turn you send it to the graveyard with your Foolish Burial Goods. For some of the other one-ofs that I run for the spell lineup, I run 1 Gold Sarcophagus. This is here to banish Resonance Insect, since it just says when it is banished, you can send 1 insect type monster from your deck to the graveyard, except for Resonance Insect. So it's great for that setup of other insects in the graveyard for us to use. 1 Call by the Grave, and this is just for shutting down my opponent's plays or their hand traps. 1 Reasoning. Once again, Metamorphosed Insect Queen can only be summoned by a card effect, so if your opponent doesn't remember what level this card is and you reveal it, you can easily just special summon it onto the field as well. one for one. This is here for the block spider, because once you just special summon the one block spider, making up for the monster you sent with one for one, you'll summon another one onto the field. So it's basically like you didn't give up anything for this one card in the deck. And lastly, the one monster reborn. Once again, Insect Queen just has to be summoned by a card effect. So if you can summon it with this card as well, it just makes for a protective barrier for all your other insects on the field from card effects. And that is it for the spells. We'll now move on to the traps. I run 2 corrosive scales. You target one insect you control, equip this card to it. While you control the equipped monster, your opponent's monsters cannot attack insect monsters except for the equipped monster. And while this equipped to a monster, each time your opponent normal or special summons a monster or activates a card effect, place 1 scale counter on each face of monster on the field. And basically they lose 1 attack for each scale counter this card has. So this is a great way to get over some, let's say, powerhouse monsters your opponent may have on the field by just being able to lower their attack, but also just for another lockdown option if you don't have your block spiders set up on the field, or if you had to use them for a extra deck resource, you rely on corrosive scales, equipping it onto one of your stronger insect type monsters for more of that protection with the deck. And then the last for the special summon options, I run 3 Call the Haunted. I thought of Back to the Front for the deck, but I decided to go with Call the Haunted just because, once again, summoning our Insect Queen in attack position is a great, offensive play against our opponent. Being able to use this and then just get more and more tokens each turn that go by and having this card equipped onto it. But that is it for the main deck. We'll now move on to the extra deck. I run 2 Inzektor Picofelina. With this card, just needs 2 insect-type monsters to make it. If this card is link summoned, you can discard 1 card to target 1 other insect-type monster you control. Equip 1 insect-type monster from your deck to it as an equip spell, and it gains the effect. The equipped monster gains 500 attack, and you can target 3 insects in your graveyard, shuffle them into the deck, and then draw 1 card. You can only use each effect of Picofelina once per turn. So with this, you also set up the equip that you may have needed for Cocoon of Ultra Evolution to then special summon another insect on the field. And with it, you're not limited when this card for the discard to equipped other insect type monsters. So as long as you have one of those monsters on the field, it makes it that much more easier for the equip, and then just more of the setup as well for the set restriction of special summoning onto the field. I only run the 2 though. I also run 1 Seraphim Papillon. It's in here for the link 3 options, is more of a power play for your different counters for the link material, and then being able to remove a counter to special summon 1 level 4 lower insect type monster from your graveyard gives you more of a recycle resource with some of the other ones we run in the deck that you can then reuse, whether it be Block Spider or even our Resonance Insect or our Pinch Hopper. For some of the more generic cards in the extra deck, I run 1 Link Karibo and 1 Salamangreat Almirage, both Link 1 options to go into with some of the lower attack monsters that I run in the deck. Also 1 Nightmare Cerberus, 1 Nightmare Phoenix, 1 Underclock Taker, 1 Mrs. Radiant, since the fact that the majority of the main deck are all Earth attribute monsters. This is just good for more power-up plays, including with Inzektor Picofelina. 1 Decode Talker, 1 Nightmare Unicorn, and for the Xyz monsters, I run 1 Abyss Dweller, 1 Digusto Emerald, 1 Tornado Dragon, and very rarely do I use the Block Spiders for any extra deck options, but still have them in here for the Utopia Roots. If I just have 1 Block Spider with no additional special summons, I usually like to go into Link Karibo with them. As for some of the go-to plays, like I spoke of before, with your special summon options, just being able to activate your Wormbait can give you 2 tokens on the field to then use for your Inzektor Picofelina. And once again, you're not limited for your special summon aside from level 3 and 4s, so if you have, let's say, your 1-for-1 in your hand, you can discard 1 of your level 4 cards to the graveyard, which will then set up, let's say, Banish Fodder for your Resonance Insect if you send this card, special summoning out your Block Spider onto the field, since you can get around the restrictions of Wormbait with this card. And also, with this option, you can go for the additional Block Spider with that special summon and creating the block for your insects on the field. If you go with this play first and then summon out Inzektor Picofelina, you can then use the discard cost for your Block Spider to then basically equip onto it, and then if need be, use for the Cocoon of Ultra Evolution. Even though most of the time with this setup on the field, if you have some of your other cards in your hand, like your Parasite Paranoid, being able to discard and equip this card on to one of your opponent's monsters will give you that additional tribute to use with your Cocoon of Ultra Evolution to have this setup on the field, and then go for your Metamorphosed Insect Queen, having that lock and the additional power boost of your other Link monster on the field altogether. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoyed the video. This is definitely a fun deck that I enjoy of, you know, the original Yu-Gi-Oh characters. Weevil definitely does have an interesting take on the play style and just, you know, a bunch of different ways you can change up the deck, whether it's, you know, just aspect ratio of specific cards you're running. But I definitely do like the numbers because you do run through a lot of the insects for all the different plays you may invest in for the deck. And until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. And Kira, Twig, out.